and welcome all.
Hey,
Great.
Hello.
Lots of people joining. Hey, we love you to have video on if you can. We love being able to see everyone's faces. If you don't want to have your video on, it's totally fine, but if you can, that's fantastic. You will notice that you are on mute for this one. It'll be myself, Molly, and Kathleen will be running today's webinar. Now, first of all, I want everyone to share where they are. Okay, where are you in the world? And also, what do you do creatively? If everyone can just pop that in the chat, that would be awesome. Where you are and what you do. We tend to see people are pretty spread out throughout the world. A lot of our clients we work with over at Flambeau Entrepreneur are in the US and Canada, about 90% of our clients, but we also work with clients in different parts of the world as well, Europe, Australia, New Zealand occasionally as well. Amazing. So just everyone popping in the chat where you are in the world and what you do creatively, or it could be what you're wanting to do creatively. That's totally fine as well. Just as we have more people joining us in. Amazing. I am actually in Argentina at the moment. So I'm in a place called Bariloche for a couple of months, based here right now. It's like Pacific time, so it's East Coast plus 1 hour. So that's the time zone I'm in here. I am from New Zealand originally. That kind of throws people off when they don't know that. They're like, where is that funny accent from within that? But we are a US-based business, but I happen to be in Argentina for a couple of months, running things remotely at the moment. Cool. So we're starting to see in the chat, people are sharing. I love it. Some familiar names and faces here as well. Great to have you all here. Amazing. Portland, amazing freelance graphic design, amazing Nate, Toronto, Canada, character design, Vancouver, I love it. So good to see people from Canada here. Hey Leila, amazing in Greece, Portland, Providence, there we go. Design and illustrator, watercolor artist, Portland. Lots of people from Portland. I wonder why that is. I love it. So good. Minneapolis, amazing. Minneapolis, love it. More people from Minneapolis, so good. Pittsburgh, Abby, Denver, there we go. I love the spread. So if you've just joined us, just pop into the chat where you are and what you do creatively. So good to see where everyone is at and what everyone is doing. Honestly, I'm so excited about today's webinar. Just being able to do this webinar with both Molly and Kathleen is such a delight. We're having a bit of a laugh just before everyone came on of like, so great to be able to catch up as well. So look, we're going to dive into it. So I'm going to hand over to Kathleen to get us underway with today's webinar. Over to you, Kathleen.
Hey everyone. Good to see a lot of Portland people here. Love to see that. My name's Kathleen. I'm an independent illustrator and graphic designer based in Portland. Basically a little bit of my backstory as a kind of a freelancer and working with Logan. I was working in advertising in 2020. We all know what was happening at the time. And I was considering making freelance a bigger part of just my, life and career. And I actually met Logan through a call very similar to this. I think that another artist had put on. And I had zero business knowledge at the time. I had great, obviously creative skills, but didn't know how to apply them. And I loved Logan's experience and his approach to business as a whole. So I started working with him to get some kind of education and support, and took his program, and he helped me leave my day job within like a year of starting. And just, I felt like I gained a lot of confidence, and I have been freelance now for 3 years almost. In May will be 3 years since I was able to quit my advertising job. And just, now I work illustration, graphic design, a lot of different industries and stuff. And I've really taken from like a couple $100 here and there to like a consistent, sustainable business. So that's where I'm at. And I think I'll throw it over to Molly to talk about.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Kathleen. So my name is Molly. I am a muralist and illustrator based out of Minneapolis. I do interior and exterior murals, and then I do a little bit of like kind of small business branding and support assets for illustration, but my bread and butter is really doing murals. And I actually met Logan through Kathleen, because Kathleen and I met at a creative conference, like 5 years ago now. So I got to a point in my business a few years ago. I was actually in this point for a while, that I was just like, I felt really good about my skills. I liked what I was doing, but I just had no clarity around like how to move things forward. I always tell people when I like started the coaching program, it was like putting on glasses for my business, because I previously had like a fuzzy idea of what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, but like working with a business coach, and in particularly like Logan, really helped me clarify like what I wanted to do, what I was working for, and how to get there. And those are things I just have like really, really been craving. And it just, yeah, it gave me such confidence to have like business savvy that works with the creative side of my things. So yeah, all that to say, Logan has been like the perfect asset for my business. And I'll kind of give you a little overview of Logan's background if you don't know. As you can hear, he's a Kiwi, that he works as a nomad all over the world with people from all over the world. He has a master's in entrepreneurship. He owned and operated his own creative company for over 11 years. So he comes at this coaching program with like such a unique perspective of, he has literally been in our shoes, and now he has worked with hundreds of people in really similar positions. So he's really just very, very strong in regards to both experience and like just working with people uniquely in our creative business situation. He's helped people leave their day jobs. He helped me finally get my first 6-figure year as a full-time creative last year, which was exciting. And yeah, he's just awesome. I'm really excited to be partnering with him and Kathleen today to tell you a little bit more about creative biz tips that work for us and could work for you.
Amazing. Honestly, so excited to be here, and thanks for the introduction there as well, Molly. Honestly, the reason we wanted to do this was we wanted to share the expertise in terms of the things that, yes, we teach on some of our programs, some of those tips and strategies, but also give you reflection of people who are in it, people who are running creative businesses. Both Molly and Kathleen here, they are doing this. And I know there's people here on the call today or watching the recording that, yeah, you're in that position too. Some of you do have day jobs you want to leave. Some of you have left the day job. Some of you are full-time. Some of you are just trying to figure out how to get started, and that's great too. So we are going to be going through some creative business tips. I think most of my introduction has been done. So those of you that have caught it, yes, from New Zealand originally, had my own creative business for 11 years. Look, the people we focus on working with these days over at Flammable Entrepreneur, they're kind of broken into 3 groups. Group 1 are like, hey, I'm trying to get started. I'm trying to get moving with this business. I have a day job. I really want to leave it. People like actually Kathleen, you were in that position when we started working together. And there's a strong desire there to do that, to leave the day job. Right. So that's group 1, the people that we work with. Some people, they don't have a day job at the moment, but they're really wanting to start and really grow their business. Group 2 are like, hey, I'm already doing a bit more like Molly when we started working together. You know, you were basically full-time focused on the business, but you're wanting to make it more sustainable and really take it to that next level without burning yourself out as well. And then occasionally the third group are people that have been in business for longer. So we occasionally work with people who have been in business for 10 or even 20 years, and they want more sustainability, or they want to pivot what they're doing within their business. They want to do more creative work. So everyone's journey is a little bit different, but we work with visual creatives. So very much people in the visual field. That kind of does vary a little bit. It tends to mean illustrators, graphic designers, and muralists are our core areas. We've worked with people outside of those areas as well, and visual creative, the odd photographer, or videographer, or interior designer as well. But it's very much our core area is very much design. So that's a bit of an overview about me. The one other thing I'm going to mention before we jump in is that we are doing basically a giveaway for 3 free business coaching calls. I'm going to drop it in the chat for this. It's a survey. It's a form that you fill in. If you're interested in applying for that, we're going to be giving away 3 30-minute calls with myself. We'll be selecting 3 people. And then also we will be giving away a whole bunch of extra calls with Paul from the team, who's here today. Hey, Paul, great to have you here. Paul is our creative business specialist, and we'll be giving away a bunch of extra calls with Paul from the team as well. So you'll be able to connect with myself or Paul. So look, fill that form in. We'd love everyone here to check that out. As well as that, even if you're not interested in getting one of those freebie calls potentially, well, we will give away some free business advice there. Fill in the question around that. And honestly, everyone that does that form always says, oh, that was really interesting. I actually got a lot out of it, because it really gets you thinking about your dreams, your goals, where you're at within the business as well. So it does take around 10 minutes to fill that out, but we'd love you to check that out. Today, you can open up the link now. We'll send the link in the email afterwards for the recording as well. People watching the recording, you're welcome to fill it in as well. Okay, let's get stuck into it. So the first thing we're going to be diving into is really around leaving the day job. So this is something that I'm sure there's some people here that are currently in day jobs. Raise your hand, those on video, if you're in a day job that you want to leave. Is there a couple of people here? might be a few people there. Nice, couple of people. I love it. Awesome. And I'm sure there's people here who have recently left their day job as well. And I'm sure there's some people here who have part-time jobs, and I'm sure there's people here who have other different situations. So one of the big things that we want to help people with is to run their creative business full-time. Right. So whether that's sustain themselves full-time, they're already full-time, but they're like, it's not quite working how I need it to be. So get to a point where it is more sustainable, or to get out of that day job. So I'm just going to be sharing a few tips around this on what to be clear on before leaving your day job, ideally, or things that you need to get clear on to stay out of the day job if you've already left. So one of the things I'm going to share first is my belief around this. I am not a big believer in quit the day job, then start the business. It's a very, very risky and difficult way to operate, because what it tends to do is it means, hey, I've got all this time suddenly, but I don't know what to do with that time. Because the people we tend to work with, the struggle is the business stuff. They're very good at what they do creatively, but suddenly you have this void of time and go, great, finally I've got all this time. What do I do with that time? So I'm a big believer in building your business and learning as much as you can whilst you have the stability of a day job. Now, I get it. It's a really hard balance. And I remember, Kathleen, there was some tough times there when you were trying to do both, right? You were trying to do the day job as well as balance it with the core of the business as well.
Well, you can move your timeline, but just continuing to have that goal and set realistic kind of timelines for yourself to meet those savings goals, meet those client and revenue goals, before I felt comfortable enough to quit. And eventually I did. And I think it was 3 years ago in May that I went full time, and it was, scary, but it almost felt seamless because I had built up so many clients and so much it just kind of continued, and then my day job fell off and suddenly I didn't have to do that anymore, and it was great. So I could actually dedicate, like Logan said, all that extra time that I had to these strategies and outreach and all this client work that I had built up before I quit. I found, the idea of just taking the leap to be stressful, but the leap was super simple once I kind of had laid out a path for myself and set myself on that path before I took the jump. But yeah, it looks like Logan's back. So
I am back indeed. I only dropped out briefly.
Welcome back.
That's good. I'm back. Argentinian internet obviously failed us briefly for a few seconds there. So look, I think, just to add to what Kathleen said there as well, what we tend to see is it tends to be 6 to 18 months people leave their day job from really putting their time and getting really serious about it, right? And I think for you, Kathleen, it was about 6 months from when we started working with you, and that's tend to what we tend to see. Some people it's longer, of course. Everyone's got different situations as well, but that's what we tend to see is when people get really focused. That is something that is achievable. We talk to a lot of people the dream would be to within 5 years, right? And we're going actually let's get you focused on within 2 years. We occasionally talk to people who are last week, can I leave my job last week? Right. And it's going to be part of it as well. And sometimes we see if there's that frustration and the desire is strong enough, those people do actually often move the fastest. And I think, for you, Kathleen, you were I don't hate this job, but I really have this passion and desire for what I want to do with my life and with this business. And that really drove you to make things happen in the business as well. So I absolutely love that. Awesome. We're going to take everyone on to the next thing. Just before we do that, I would love everyone to share their Instagram link. Please put the URL in the chat, because this is part of community, is getting you connected. Kathleen, Molly, and I will also share our links. Please make sure it's a URL, everyone. So you literally go to browser, grab it, drop it in there, because then it's clickable for everyone. And go and follow the other people here, because this is part of building community as well. We would love to connect with you as well. So we'll definitely be following everyone here too and connecting up. But yeah, everyone drop them in and then go through and follow everyone here, because this is the community part of it as well. You can always connect with awesome people. And we're gonna talk more about community. I think we've got a question around community as well, which is great. We're going to talk next about important things to be tracking in your business. Okay, the important things to be tracking in your business. Now, first of all, I think the word tracking, it's not very exciting, right? What do you mean tracking? We've got to track stuff in the business. That sounds kind of boring, right? I'm excited about the creative side of what we do. Now, actually, tracking is essential. And I know both Kathleen and Molly have really leaned into this, particularly through the work we've done together. It's not the most exciting, but you do need to be tracking certain things. Now, number one thing, kind of obvious, track revenue. Most people are not really clear on exactly how much they're earning each month and what that actually looks like. So getting clear on what that looks like and having an understanding of the costs involved in that revenue. Not all revenue is the same. You could earn $1,000 doing something and it could mostly be profit or profit for your time, which is great. There might be some things that you do. For example, Molly's a muralist. Well, she knows when she does a mural, let's say it's $4,000, there's going to be materials, there's maybe scaffolding, there's paint that has to be taken into account as well. So those are really important things to get an understanding of. You do not need to be an expert in like maths and spreadsheets, but you do usually need just a simple system around that. Outreach is another one that we recommend tracking. Outreach is something you can do, not always super exciting, but connecting with other people and understanding that if you're connecting with other people, there's going to be a small number of people will connect back. That's the reality of it. If you're sending cold outreach emails, we see that about 10%, right? 10% is a good reply rate, right? So if you send 100 emails, you might get 10 replies. This is totally cold. If it's a warm email, someone that you know, of course, they're more likely to respond. But what often happens is we talk to people and they're like, I tried outreach, doesn't work, ugh, cringe. And we're like, how many messages did you send? And they're like, I sent like 20 messages. And we're like, how many replies did you get? And they're like, I got like 5 replies. And I'm like, that's a lot of replies for 20 messages. Let's get you sending 20 more. And, that can be part of it as well as tracking. Now, I'm not saying 10% of people are going to say yes to working with you, but they will at least have a conversation with you, even if it's just, hey, we'll keep you in mind for future. That is getting you out there as well. So, those are some of the things we definitely recommend tracking. We'd love to hear your thoughts around some of these tracking things as well, Molly, from your journey.
Yeah, well, like Logan mentioned, tracking your income in like with details was huge for me. I mean, I was keeping track of like how much money I was making, but I didn't necessarily have notes around like what client that came from and how much. I mean, I could figure it out, but I didn't have it easily accessible in one spot. And having that to track was huge for me because kind of like what Logan was saying, like you need to know what your expenses are related with that too. Because if I made, for easy numbers, if I made $5,000 from a mural, but I traveled to do it and I had to rent a lift and I paid for all this, and all of a sudden I think like, oh, that was like my biggest client for the month, but actually my profit was only like $1,500. I mean, that's a big thing. That's a big difference in what I thought I was making versus what I actually did. So tracking that is definitely huge. I would say tracking your outreach is important, and having, again, just like as many notes as possible about like what type of industry you were reaching out to and like who the person was that you reached out to is really important. And then one other thing, again, kind of what Logan touched on as well, but just like keeping track of just your clients, like the actual name and email address and contact information for that client. So you can send them a thank you note. So you can easily like search for them in your inbox. So you can remember like, oh, I know that I worked with this person on this kind of a project. Now someone's asking me about something similar. Like basically just the more information that you can track about each like money that you have coming in and each client makes it so much easier for you to set yourself up for success on future projects. Which Logan like really helped me get structure around that. That was like a huge thing that I needed.
And, I think this stuff doesn't necessarily come naturally, right? Like, I think that's an important thing to recognize. It's like everyone here, and including Kathleen and Molly, like you're all really creative people. And that means that some of these sides here, you're just not as excited about. But once we get that structure in place, the systems in place, it certainly makes things easier as well. I think that's certainly part of it. So I love it. Awesome. So we're going to talk about abundance mindset next. So I think, abundance mindset is one of these kind of catchphrases these days. You hear about like abundance mindset, and some people go, oh, that's a little bit woo-woo as well. Well, look, abundance mindset is an absolutely crucial part of this journey. And the way to think about it is that you need to approach the world going, hey, there is opportunities out there for me specifically. The opposite of abundance mindset is scarcity mindset, right? So scarcity mindset says there's not enough. We're all fighting over things. It's all competition. We've got to fight to make our way out there in the world. And it's just not something that I believe to be true. But one of the things about scarcity mindset is that if you believe in scarcity mindset, that there's not enough and they're all fighting over things, the world will prove that to you to be true. right? So if you believe it to be true, there's not enough opportunities, what's going to happen is you're not going to be putting yourself out there, right? Because you're like, what's the point, right? If everyone's fighting over things and there's not enough room and it's all competition, I'm not going to put myself out there. Why do I even bother trying to make this business work? Therefore, the proof is right there. Hey, this business isn't working. See, I have no opportunities. See, I knew I was right. So it's a very interesting thing because it does really prove things to be true. The opposite is the same with abundance mindset. If you approach the world with opportunity and positivity and say, hey, look, there is going to be opportunities out there for me. I've got to find where they are. I've got to figure this out. I've got to figure out the marketing side. I've got to figure out the business stuff. But they are out there. Then you're going to be actively putting your energy towards trying to figure this out, taking action, sending those emails, posting on Instagram, connecting with people, going to networking events. And obviously, it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're going to see abundance because you're putting yourself out there. People are seeing you as well. So, this is one of these things where you actually get to decide your truth, right? You get to prove yourself right. And if that's, hey, I'm going to approach the world with scarcity mindset and there's not enough, well, you're going to get to prove that right. If you approach it with abundance mindset, hey, I've got to figure this stuff out. It might be hard, but there is opportunities out there. Great. You're going to be a person that's going to be able to grasp those opportunities as well. And we see this. We see that most people on average in the world actually operate in scarcity, right? That is the average mindset in the world. And that could be your brother, sister, partner, parents, family, best friend, right? They could generally operate from more of a scarcity mindset. So it's very easy to be impacted by the people around us as well. So we need to be very aware of this. And this is why community is so essential as well, is finding your tribe, connecting with those people that are really working from a place of abundance and opportunity. This area of visual creativity, running your own business, we're in an era where there is so many opportunities. These opportunities did not exist 40, 50 years ago, even arguably 20 or 30 years ago. And the opportunities keep growing as well within these industries we're talking about. These are not dying industries, these are growing industries. And there is tons of opportunities for the people that are really willing to lean into this stuff as well. So I know we talked about this a lot during the coaching as well, Kathleen. So I'd love to hear some of your perspectives around this stuff as well.
Yeah, this was something that was kind of hard for me to grasp at first because I have anxiety and, so I immediately go towards like, there's not enough, like I'm not enough. There's all these, really great freelancers. I remember when I was starting out, there was a designer who I really admired, designer and illustrator who I admired for so long. And like, he was just going freelance at the same time as me. And I was like, well, what chance do I have if like this guy who's very well known in my community and stuff is like just now doing it? Like what, but like, that's an absolute like wrong thing, like everyone has their own timeline as far as, having a business or not. And it's easy to think like there just won't be enough money or enough projects for me, for my specific skills, or like my skills aren't there yet. But that was one thing that Logan really helped me learn, was just that we as creatives are in a sort of bubble where we know so many people doing what we're doing, or doing what we want to do. But outside of that, like we're such a small percentage of the general population, and like people need our skills so much. The amount of people who are just like, oh, I could never do that. I could, there's a lot of non-creative people who need creative services. And it can be competitive, obviously. But there's always going to be a client out there that needs your skills, that meets your, that can pay your rate. And there's always going to be projects available to you if you're putting yourself out there. It's really about sort of casting a wider net, and being open to those opportunities, and, continuously putting yourself out there, in order to, kind of catch those opportunities as they come. So you can't really just be like hiding yourself away until you feel ready, or you feel like, oh, I'm, the perfect opportunity, or the, perfect client is out there. You sort of have to kind of cast your net wide, and keep a positive mindset, which is, for me, I was like really focused on learning all these like business things like revenue and, taxes and contracts. But changing my mindset from one of an employee who just sort of is like taking things as they come, to like a business owner who's like embracing all of the opportunities out there and looking for all the new ones, going back and talking to old clients. It's just, that was a huge shift that like completely changed the way I ran my freelance business. And in the end, I've found that even if I have like a lean month, if I employ those strategies that I've learned, stuff always comes around, and then I'm insanely busy the next month. So, you know, just being confident in the things that have worked for you in the past, or the things that are working for you, and knowing that like the projects are out there. The puzzle is just figuring out how to get to them, and how to entice those clients to you. So yeah, that was a huge thing for me to learn, just that shift.
I love it. It's so, so good to get your perspective on this, and great for everyone to really hear this stuff, because like this is, Kathleen is like actively in this. She's been doing this, you know, she's been running, you've been running your own business full time for several years now as well. Yes, we worked together for about a year and a half. And then, you know, you've been out there doing this stuff and really applying these things. And it's true, you get to prove this stuff to be right. It doesn't mean that you just choose abundance mindset and then you're done, right? I'm an abundance mindset person. It's a journey, and it's a journey that Molly's worked through. It's a journey Kathleen's worked through as well. So I love that. I'm going to keep us moving into the next point. The next one is really around marketing, because look, this is a challenge that everyone has. How to connect with your audience to help you book your next project, right? Because in the end, amazing to have a creative business, but a creative business works by having paid clients. Right, having people that are excited to work with you and want to pay you what you are worth as well. And this is where it really comes down to marketing. So the biggest problem I see when it comes to creative businesses is that creative people are very good at what they do creatively, and they often struggle with the business stuff, right? That is literally the whole premise of the work that I do, is we help creative people with the business stuff. And yes, that can mean things like the tracking and the financing and the management side, for sure, right? That's going to be part of it. A big part of it's marketing. A big part of it is sharing. A big part of it is actually getting enough of the right people to know that you exist, right? And that's what it comes down to when we talk about connecting with your audience to get their next project. It's going to come down to marketing. So one of the things is, you know, I get on calls with people sometimes who are maybe considering working with us or having a bit of a chit chat with me. And one of the things that I see is that I say to people, I say, so what are you doing to market yourself? And so many people get all embarrassed. They have a bit of a laugh. They're like, well, and then at the same time, they're kind of like, I don't know why this business is not working. And I'm like, what are you doing marketing wise? And they're like, well, and that is something that gets in the way of a lot of people, because it's not a normal, natural process for creative people. At the same time, it is an essential piece. You do not have to be an expert in marketing, but you do need to have some strategies to get yourself out there. And one of my big beliefs around this is that you do not need to be everywhere. I think we all hear this online. You've got to be everywhere. You've got to, people are going to find you in lots of different ways. And like, yes, people might find you in different ways, but the more you can focus your energy in your marketing, the better off you'll be, rather than spreading yourself thin. You're only a one-person business in most cases. That means you don't have a lot of capacity and time. So, one of the things we really focus on is helping our clients get clear on where to put their energy. Now, that may look different between Kathleen and Molly and other clients we work with. About 10% of our clients we work with have large followings on Instagram, right? Over 10,000 followers. For them, it's kind of almost obvious that Instagram is going to be a big core part of their marketing. But for a lot of people, it doesn't need to be. It can certainly be part of their marketing, but there is lots of ways that you can market yourself. And it's really about testing things out, learning the different things, trying them out. And for visual creatives, we tend to see, it tends to be things like, obviously, yes, Instagram, social media. Outreach, I've mentioned, that's another area that still works, does work. Lots of forms of outreach. Partnerships is another one. Relationships and referrals, right? Those are essential as well. Networking, that's another core area as well. There's some of the core areas we tend to see working for people, right? And we work with visual creatives, so we get to see what's working from working with a lot of people and talking to tons more as well. And they're the things that pop up again and again and again. And those are ways that can really help people. But, I think just to reiterate my point there is you do not need to be everywhere, but you do have to be somewhere. Right. And it's easy to forget this stuff. It's easy to go, oh, that marketing stuff, cringy. Yes, there's going to be some learnings. Part of the cringe will come from the fact that you don't understand it and you don't know it and it's scary. But when you start to learn and put some of these processes in place, it will get easier. It will become more natural over time as well. So I think just such an important part of it as well. Molly, would love to hear, some of your thoughts for everyone around this stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, working through the program that I did with Logan, one of the big takeaways I got was like, what is the marketing that's working for me? So like really, really doing the work to figure out where leads are coming from and things was huge. So like for me, I don't have a huge Instagram following, but I get a lot of work through Instagram. And a big part of that, like marketing on there, is making sure that I am just making like work that I want to be making. Like I would rather be actually showing things that represent what I want to do than trying to be everywhere and just like throwing a bunch of random examples up. So yeah, just like making sure that I'm really focused on the things that are working for me is super important. And like Logan said, it's kind of like you have to experiment. So like if you have to do mock-ups or like do, you know, examples of things, even if you don't necessarily have experience doing it yet, if that's the thing you want to be doing, then that's the thing you should be putting out there. So market the thing that you want, not the thing you necessarily like have in your portfolio if that's not what you want to be doing, you know? And then like Logan said too, like networking is really big. That was probably the other biggest takeaway I got from doing the programs was connecting with other artists. I know, I mean, I am an extrovert. I love being social, but even so, the word networking can sound like really cringy. I don't love it. But connecting with like other artists and other creatives going through certain things, like it can be really isolating being a solo creative entrepreneur. And it's really, really important to connect with other creatives who, first of all, can help like bounce ideas off of things with you. Like, oh, I'm also a creative business owner and I went through something similar. Like, here's how I dealt with that. It's really great to have those connections, which I made a ton through the Flammable program. And also just like kind of back to the abundance mindset, like a rising tide lifts all boats, you know? I mean, there's so many different kinds of creatives. And I would be willing to bet if some of you like introduce yourself to someone new at a party and they're like, what do you do? And you explain, oh, I do this like creative business. You're probably only one of like, I don't know, 2 or 3 people they know who are a creative business person. So guess what? Even if they don't necessarily need like your thing exactly right now, they're going to like tell other friends about it, or maybe they ask you about something creative and you have a creative friend that you can refer to them. Like if you network within the creative community, you guys are going to refer each other and like make more connections because of that bigger web that you get from connecting with other creatives. So that was like a huge takeaway from doing this program, that I like met other people going through really similar things. It's been really nice to like both bounce ideas and like pain points with each other and help work through those and like truly connect to job opportunities from them too.
I love it. So, so powerful. And, you know, it's a reminder, even this here is a bit of a mini community right now, people sharing each other's Instagram and things like that as well. As yes, you end up with your Instagram being like lots of amazing creative people following you and you following them as well. And it's amazing how often that is just one of the things that people need. I think a lot of people are pretty isolated, to be honest. Like, you know, I'm sure there's people now that are like, yeah, my family, my friends, they love me, but they don't really get it. They don't really understand the journey fully. Maybe they want to be supported, they want to be there, but they don't necessarily understand like how difficult it can be to send a cold email, or how it feels when you put something on Instagram, you get hardly any likes, or whatever it is. Like they don't necessarily fully understand it. So putting those people around you who are in the journey as well. These are the people who are ahead of where you're at, the people behind where you're at, the people right next to you as well. Building that community is so, so essential. And once again, putting people around you who are in that growth, abundance mindset, that place where they're trying to figure things out as well, it really just helps keep you motivated. We're going to take into the next one, which is around how to stay productive in your business. And first thing I'm going to say is that part of productivity is going to be about looking after you and looking after your own wellness. It's absolutely essential. We all think, oh, growing a creative business is all about the hustle and working harder and faster, stronger. I do not believe that. I do not believe that the hustle culture approach is the way to do it. The hustle culture approach of working all hours, harder, longer, faster, it's the way to burnout. It's the way to exhaustion. I don't think anyone in any industry should be doing that. It's really about balance. And actually, wellness is an essential part of being productive and staying productive and keeping motivated as well. So when we say wellness, this is everything from actually taking breaks, right? One of the things that people sometimes struggle with when they run their own business is that there's no one there to tell you to make sure you have lunch, make sure you have breaks, right? So actually taking that rest time is so essential. One of my beliefs is sometimes the best way to grow the business is to go and have a nap, right? What a crazy idea. Go and have a nap. That's the business tip for today, Logan. What? Well, it's because actually your mind also needs time to rest, relax, and think subconsciously about the ideas that you're figuring out or the things you're trying to work through as well. So incorporating that wellness side is really important. And, we see people go on a big wellness journey when they really start getting serious around their creative business as well. And that wellness journey, it could be anything. For some people, it's they start getting into meditation or a bit of yoga, or they start getting out there and trying to get their steps each day, or they start getting into mindfulness. They start actually getting serious about looking after themselves. And sometimes it's going getting a massage, or going and just taking some time for yourself. Go walking your dog if you have a dog, whatever that is. We've got to remember that that stuff is also part of growing a creative business, right? It's not just the send the emails, post on Instagram, create the work. It's also about looking after you, because you are your business, right? Like this is why it matters. It's because you are your business. If you are having a bad day, you're sick, you're overwhelmed, you're burned out, that means your business is sick, overwhelmed, burned out, and essentially you don't have a business anymore. Right? So balancing these things is absolutely essential. Other things are part of this as well in terms of staying productive and learning strategies to get things done. That's going to be part of it as well. It's something we work with people a lot with. It's not just get the things done. It's, hey, how do we break things down? How do we make things really achievable? What's the one thing you can do today? What are the 5 things on your task list today? Hey, you're all busy people. I'm sure everyone here has busy lives, friends, family. Some of you will have children. Some of you have day jobs. Some of you have other commitments, or you're caring for other people. We understand that. So it's really going to be about balance. And yes, putting the time and energy you can into your business, but also putting the time and energy into you and looking after you. Another thing I'll share around this is just get excited about those goals. If you have clarity around your goals and what you're trying to achieve, you're going to feel more productive, because you're not just trying to do work. You're actually getting out there and you're working towards something. And having that goal in mind, that's going to help you keep very productive as well around this. So, it's something I'm very passionate about. I'm sure you can all see that as well. Kathleen, would love to hear, some of your thoughts around this productivity and wellness side as well.
Yeah. That was one of the things when I first was, met Logan through this call, was just like the lack of hustle culture was a huge reason that I ended up working with him, because I was working in an industry that was 100% just toxic work over, the stay late, be the last one to leave, traveling all the time for shoots and stuff. And just, it wasn't a environment that wanted you to take care of yourself. And so when I was thinking about going freelance, I was like, well, I don't want to just continue this cycle. And so that was one of the things that, I was really looking for, was like, how can I build a sustainable business, a productive business, without feeling like I'm just going to have to be like working, people say like, oh, you're going to start your own business and go from working 40 hours or 50 hours to like 80. And I'm like, no, I work as little as possible. And I think I told Logan in one of our first meetings, like, I want to work as little as possible and make as much money as possible. And I want to be doing like the work I like. But productivity is definitely something I still struggle with. And it can be really hard to stay focused and productive when you don't have someone kind of leering over your shoulder, being like, when's that, when is that outreach going to be done? And like, which I'm really bad about doing my outreach. Don't be like me. But I'm really motivated to get like the client work done, because I love my clients. I love the work. And so like, I'll have all this client work and I'll get that done like on time, on deadline, always. But then I've got like this other side where it's like, well, I need to do my taxes. I need to do my outreach. I need to, update my, budget, or, make, example work for, this portfolio. And the business stuff is very easy for creatives to fall to the wayside. You may not have, a ton of clients, but you may be like, oh, but I just really want to make a bunch of artwork. I mean, that's great. But it was sort of like, I needed to set up these systems and almost like hack my brain a little bit. I think that was something we talked about, to kind of get into a routine of getting these things done, that, the business stuff. And it's really, Logan gave me a few different like strategies. Like there's like the frogs, I want to go through all of them, but like how to prioritize items, and that kind of thing, to just ensure that I'm not letting all that business stuff fall to the wayside, in favor of just getting, the creative work done. And I'm a procrastinator for sure. And like, I'll always be a procrastinator, but now I can sort of procrastinate proactively, and sort of like, knowing that about myself, I can set myself up with these systems that help me use my way of working in my brain to the best. But yeah, I mean, like Logan said, another thing is just making sure that that rest is productive, especially for, I think, small business owners, because it's very tempting to just, the second you have a thought about something, to just be like, okay, well, I have to do it. Even if it's like, I've been working all day. Sometimes it's taking a day off if you're, feeling anxious, or, going to my workout class at, that time in the middle of the day when, I should be getting things done. Or like, I just bought a house, and like, there's stuff that's occupying my brain that I need to get done before I can actually focus on, my work. So sometimes it's taking some time in the morning to do that. Or just get away from my computer, because, the eyes. But yeah, like he said, we're the business. And I think that emphasis on taking care of yourself first is so important. Like, I can't overstate like how, if I have a week where I have like a tight turnaround project, like the way I feel at the end of that week is so much less productive. So I just want to shut down. Whereas if I've kind of done my routine and given myself the time that I need, the amount of stuff I get done is just like exponentially more. So like, don't let yourself, especially if you're in that place where you do have a day job and you're trying to do this stuff on the side. I think that's specifically a place where it can be very easy to get just like super burnt out. But making sure that even in that time when you're in that sort of limbo between quitting and being full-time, to take care of yourself first and remember why you're doing this. You're doing it to make a better creative life and creative business for yourself, not, fall into like corporate toxic like burnout stuff. So yeah, that's been huge for me. So
Love it. So, so powerful. And once again, just like so good to get like the inside story of like what is happening in people's creative businesses and the challenges that come up as well. So just love that, you're so open to sharing this, both of you as well. We're going to do one more thing we're going to be sharing, and then we've got a little bit of time for questions. We probably won't get through to many of them. We did get submitted some beforehand, so we'll see how we go with them. The final thing we want to talk about is pricing. Now, pricing is like a whole topic in itself, right? We could run a whole webinar about pricing. We can run a whole course about pricing. It's also the thing that people struggle with a lot as well as marketing. People struggle with actually how to price the work that they do. It can be a big challenge. So we're definitely going to talk about that a little bit. One of the biggest things that I see people getting wrong is that they are not thinking about what other people will pay. Now, what you should be pricing on is the maximum the market is willing to pay. Now, it's kind of wordy, but it basically says you should be pricing based on what people are willing to pay. So it's called value-based pricing, right? Pricing based on the value. Now, that's not always a straightforward thing to work out, but it's an essential thing to start understanding. This is not about how much time you put into it. Now, that is a ruler you can use, certainly, but a lot of people start there. They go, how much time am I putting in? Therefore, I will charge X amount. No, actually start with, what is this thing worth? How much are people willing to pay? And then do the equation of, okay, how much time is involved in this thing here? What does that look like time-wise? What is the minimum number of hours this could take? What is the maximum number of hours this take? What does it probably take on average? Doing the numbers so that you actually understand, well, am I going to make a loss on this? Right? So doing the numbers is essential, and working out your time, ideally moving away from that per hour rate if possible, not always possible, but really trying to work on that project pricing based on value rather than just time or inputs. Also, if you do have materials involved, we talked about that earlier with Molly, is that you've got to get clear on the material cost too. Do you need to, some muralists have to have like a scissor lift, right? Scissor lifts are not cheap, right? You need to hire them, or there might be scaffolding, and then there's the paint. There's a lot of different materials that go into murals. So yes, you can charge a lot, but also, are you making sure you're covering your time as well as the materials? And at the end of it, are you making sure that you're actually having a feasible business, having a sustainable business long-term as well? So these are some essential things to think about. A quick tip, ask for people's budgets. right? Someone says, I would love to work with you, interested in more information. First of all, find out more about their needs, but then you can also ask them, did you have a budget in mind? Now, look, most people won't tell you the answer, right? About 20% of people might, okay? But it's amazing how often we've got clients that do that, ask them, and they come back and say, yep, I've got a $5,000 budget. And you're going, oh, that's interesting. I was thinking of charging you $3,000, right? So understanding what their budget is a really important part of that. Part of it is understanding their needs. So even if you can't understand their budget, asking a lot of questions. One of the things we do not recommend doing is just sending a quote straight away. They've said, hey, can you do this? And you go, yeah, sure, it's this much. No, ask them questions, get to understand their needs. There might be an upsell opportunity. Maybe you can help them in some other way. Maybe there is a conversation around budget there as well. So they're just a few things. Once again, this is a huge subject. The final thing I will share on this is that sometimes you're going to have to just put a stake in the ground, take a stab at it, and have a go at a price that looks okay, that you feel is a good price. Sometimes you're not going to know until they say yes or no. Right, so that unfortunately is also part of it as well, is there is a bit of guesswork here as well. As you get more experience, as you get more opportunities and you're working with more people, you can keep raising your price as well, but you're also going to get no's. One of the things I always share is that 20% of people should be saying no to you based on price alone. If everyone is saying yes to you, yes, amazing, I'll work with you, yes, 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 well, it probably means your pricing too low. So we'd love to hear, Molly, some of your thoughts around this one, just before we head into Q&A.
Yeah, so much of pricing for creative stuff, there really is like a lot of mindset work you have to do around it. I mean, I know I was this way when I was first getting started, and I know so many creatives who really struggle with charging for their work because they're like, I don't want to make someone pay me for something that I wanted to be doing anyway. It's like, you should not hate your job to get money for it. Like, you can like what you do. That is okay. And remembering that, like, you are giving something of value, like what Logan was saying, like, you need to price for what the market value is. Like, if I'm painting a mural for someone, sure, the actual time on site painting might only be a few days, but they have that mural for a decade. I mean, if it's a public facing business, their return on income for that, like the traffic that they got on social media, that's huge. So remembering like the mindset around what am I actually, like, what is the service, what is the product that they are getting? And then just, tangible things too. Like, you're not really just pricing hourly, you're pricing for your insurance, you are pricing for healthcare for yourself, you are pricing for travel to get to jobs. So just really doing a lot of the mindset work around, like, what all am I actually putting into this? And then, there's just kind of some basic things that you can kind of have, like, maybe you'll do that math in your head and kind of get to a point where you're like, all right, well, I want to be making like X number of dollars an hour. Just consider all of that when you're putting together your proposal. Then you can kind of have that in the back of your head, and you don't necessarily price hourly when you're pitching it to someone, but you can say, like, well, I'm estimating this is going to take me, 2 days, and I want to make $100 an hour. So my all-in project estimate that I'll send will be this. And then you can just send a project estimate. That's kind of a little bit of my strategy when I'm pitching what my price is. Yeah, but really what Logan said, like, doing that mindset work. And then there is also, if anyone needs just a super basic reference, I have it right here, actually, the Pricing and Ethical Guidelines book. I don't know if this will be blurry or not. Well, I can send a link to it too, but that's just a really good point for getting started, for just like a base price, and like some contract and like licensing, like industry standards are helpful, but you really do have to do the mindset work around it too, like Logan was talking about. And like, I got so much out of the program with him to really figure out how to do that pricing to make it work for me and my business.
I love what you shared there around like the confidence and mindset side as well, because like, once again, it sounds a little kind of, woo-woo, perhaps what word we want to use, but like, this stuff is essential. It's like, you need to work on yourself. You need to work on that confidence and that mindset side to actually have the guts of going, here's what the price is. And I know that, often when we're getting clients to increase their pricing, and they say the price to their client, whether it's on a call or an email, and there's like this gut feeling of like, what are they going to say? They're going to be so outraged. And then it's amazing seeing how often people go, yeah, that sounds good, right? Or there's going to be some no's, because that's part of it as well. Cool. Amazing. We've covered so many things. I feel like we've jam-packed so much information today. It's been so good. We are going to jump into a couple of questions that we got sent in beforehand. The one thing I will share again is that link again. Would love to get on some calls with some people here. As I said, we're going to give away 3 freebie 30-minute coaching calls with people that fill in the survey with me, and then a bunch extra with Paul Corgan, who's here on the call today as well. We're getting on some calls there too. So honestly, we're just excited about connecting with a bunch of you. Please fill in the form. Even if you don't want that call or don't get chosen for the call, we'll be giving away some free business advice there anyway. There's a question around that, and everyone always enjoys filling that in because you'll learn a bunch of stuff as well. Kathleen and Molly, I think that's how we originally connected too, was they both filled in a form a little bit like this. And then eventually we did end up deciding to work together and help grow their businesses too. So look, we are going to jump into this first question we got sent in, because this is like my favorite question that I've heard for a while, which is around tips for running a business when all you want to do is make art. So I'm going to jump into this one because I think this is essential. And Kathleen and Molly, if you want to add anything to this, you definitely can. But so the question again, tips for running a business when all you want to do is make art. I think we need to be really clear on this. Is like, if all you want to do is make art, it could be a hobby, and that's okay, right? There is nothing wrong with art being a hobby. Of course, the downside is that you're not going to be able to do art all the time because you're probably going to have to do something else, a day job to pay the bills, right? So therefore, building a creative business is a way to do more art, right? Because you're going to be doing more of that. The harsh reality is that business is part of running a creative business, right? So it's part of it is understanding that and going, yeah, sure, I want to be doing as much art as possible and balancing this stuff. The way to do that is to actually create a creative business. And it's going to mean that a percentage of the time that I'm going to put into this business is going to be on that business stuff. Now, it doesn't always have to be the boring business stuff that you hate, the boring admin. As you learn stuff and you grow, it's going to get easier. You're going to put systems in place. You're also going to find joy in the business stuff. I think sometimes people, when they hear me say that, they're like, I don't think there's any joy in the business stuff, Logan. No, there is. Business is also a creative process. And when you start to understand that side of it as well, that there's experimentation, just like there is on the creative side. There's experimentation and trying things in the business stuff. You getting to know and getting to learn the business strategies and getting to know what you enjoy doing within those things is important too, the ways you like to market. Right, so we tend to see people, tend to gravitate towards different areas of marketing. Not everyone is just getting into social media, but the people who love social media and get really into it, they tend to use it as one of their core marketing strategies. We've got people who absolutely love, would you believe it, the cold emailing. They love that side of it because they can take action, they can track things, they find it very effective as well. And then some people love networking. Right? They enjoy just connecting with people. And whether you're an introvert or extroverted, that could be connecting with people more one-on-one. It could be going to big networking events, whatever that is. These are going to be essential parts of running a creative business. And, I think sometimes we just need to get a bit real about that, is that it is an essential piece of it, but it doesn't mean that you're going to spend your whole time now stuck behind the laptop sending proposals or sending cold emails. No, like, we want you to be doing as much of the creative work as possible. So that's where setting up the systems, focusing the approaches within the stuff is absolutely so essential. Molly, Kathleen, either of you, Molly, did you want to add anything to that, just around like that focus on the business side as well?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is just that, hypothetically, there are ways that as your business gets bigger, you could be doing more and more of just the artwork and less of the business side of things. But it's really important to do that work up front because, you could end up working with an art rep, or maybe you get big enough that you hire a team and they do a lot of the business stuff, but you have to really get in tune with like, what are your goals? What do you want? Like, how do you want this to take shape, and put in that work up front to do it. And like Logan said, like, if you don't want to do that part, that's fine. Like, bigger is not always better. If you want to keep it as a hobby or a side hustle, that's great. Like, you can just do the artwork then. But yeah, I would say, down the road, you might be able to do more and more of just the artwork and the parts that you love, but putting up the work up front is really important to really keep your mission and your goals in mind.
I love that. Kathleen, did you have any sort of extra thoughts to add there, just around like that, balancing those things?
Yeah, I mean, like you guys said, like it feels like a lot up front. It's a huge percentage, I feel like, up front of like setting up your systems and spreadsheets and figuring all that stuff out. But over time, it does become a much smaller percentage. Like I don't feel like I'm spending a ton of time on that stuff. And honestly, I get really excited to fill in my spreadsheet with like a new client, or like when I send my invoice, I get to like add it in and do my, and like it just feels good because you're just like, look at like what I did. So like after a while, like those kind of things like tracking and, you know, I still
Yeah.
don't love outreach, but you know, and I'm an introvert, like I think I mentioned in the chat. So networking can be difficult, but it also can be really rewarding and fun, and like you're doing a hard thing, and it feels really good to know that like this hard thing is in service of this thing that you love to do. So
Totally.
Love it.
yeah.
So good, and great getting perspectives here as well. Time has flown by, so we only got to that one question. This is sometimes how it goes, but honestly, just such a delight to have everyone here. Those watching the recording as well, thanks for joining us in remotely via the recording too. We will be sending out the recording by email to people that signed up. We'll also include the link to the survey as well. Love to get connecting with some people there. So we're going to wrap things up for today. Just before we do, I would love everyone here that's on the call live to pop into the chat a takeaway from today. What's something that you've learned? What's something that you found interesting, maybe helpful? We'd love everyone just to share one thing, because it's going to really help to consolidate things for other people as well. Obviously, we've talked a lot about marketing and business, productivity, a lot of different areas, but we'd just love to hear what's really resonated with people just as we start to wrap up. So just popping into the chat, what's been helpful, what's been unique, maybe what's an action. It could be an action or something that you're thinking you can do or take action on to move your business forward as well. We're starting to get a few things popping into the chat there as well, so I'll just read out a few of them just as we start to wrap up. Keeping notes on client contacts, yes, absolutely. Hustle culture doesn't make your business successful. Yes, Lindsay, I love that. You are your business. Remember that one. Amazing. Love that. Tracking outreach. Amazing. There's so many good things being popped into the chat here as well. So have a good read through. Accountability for tasks that you routinely procrastinate on. Yep, that's a biggie. Experimentation, Renee. I love that. Find out what works for you and enjoy. Helpful to learn about mindset, resonated, and so easy to forget as well. Amazing. So many good things being shared there in the chat. We're going to wrap up things for today. Honestly, it's just been such a delight running this. And Molly, I appreciate you having you here. Kathleen, it's been great as well. So amazing. Take care, everyone. We're going to wrap things up there. See yas.